Today is episode 28 with Dr. B and the 12th Ask Dr. B show.
Welcome to the Harness Your ADHD Power podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, ADDers. I am so glad that you could join me today for my podcast show. I'm keeping the pace lively and upbeat so you don't get in a rut, stop paying attention in the moment because you anticipate what's coming next. It's good to keep things fresh. Plus, this is good training in case you're one of those people that jump to conclusions or assumptions and then you miss something important. I wouldn't want that to happen to you. And since helping you to shape new behaviors is part of my intention here, with the stories and the action steps for you to take, I want to remind you that today's success, or lack of it, started last night. That's right. If you got a good night's sleep, felt rested when you woke up this morning, and were excited about your day, then you've set yourself up for a successful day. And if you let yourself stay up late again because you felt like it, and you didn't gently and lovingly escort yourself to bed, then you've got some work to do around that behavior and that way of thinking. With our fast-paced brains, we definitely need our sleep. And what about your questions? Did you wake up with any this morning? If so, and you're looking for answers, consider sending your questions over to me so that I can answer them or I can find the answers for you. I would love to do that. Or perhaps your questions arise in the moment when you think about the tasks that you have to complete and you feel overwhelmed before you even get to them because you have questions about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, or even if you should do it. Is that you? If so, then keep track of your questions as best as you can and send them over to me so that I can help you get answers and get you unstuck. And you're welcome to ask more than one question on more than one occasion. If you have lots of questions, then ask me lots of questions. Seriously, you'll be doing me a really big favor by sending me your questions. You will. And in case you're wondering what kind of questions you can ask me, here's some examples of what others have asked me over the years. How can we overcome resistance to change? What is it about physical exertion that helps our brains? How are routines useful tools for those with ADHD? You know, your questions matter to me, all of them. How are you going to do what you want to do if your mind is filled with questions and roadblocks instead of excitement and motivation? Where are you supposed to turn in times like that? Well, one place you can turn is to me, which is one reason I created the Ask Dr. B format. It's not just that we're a curious bunch, although we are. You may also be sitting with huge gaps in your knowledge base, and you can't move forward on what you want to achieve. In fact, you may not even know what questions to ask to get the information that you need. Wouldn't it be wonderful if someone would ask you, "What are you trying to do?" And you could tell him or her. And then they would ask you, "Do you know how to do A, B, C, D, etc.?" And you could tell them what you knew and you didn't know. And because they know the sequence, they could answer your questions and guide you through the sequences of the tasks that you want to get done. I would like to be that person for you. And if you're the kind of person who needs to have all the details up front before you step into the ring, and you have huge gaps in the process or sequence of events, how exactly are you supposed to proceed? Seriously. This has nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with your learning style. Even with ADHD, some of us are quite literal and we need the step-by-step version of the story to engage. Then there's others of us that are more inferential and we just kind of jump in and kind of fly by the seat of our pants and we fill in the details and the information as we go along. Either way, you need what you need, and that's just how it is, period. And if you're anything like me and you don't get the answers that you need, you might keep spinning or ruminating like I do, until I get the answers that I need. The entire situation can turn into one overwhelming experience, and perhaps this happens to you too. My very curious mind is always wondering, what's the number one biggest struggle or frustration for you right now, so I can help you with it? I wake up every day wondering that, so that I can direct my energy to the solutions that you need. I really want to know. I do. I'd love to know how ADHD is the same or different in all parts of the world, which is one of the reasons I created the Harness Your ADHD Power community on Facebook. And a special thank you to those of you who have generously shared your thoughts with me and told me how you are truly suffering. Lost productivity, lost income, lost respect by your family, lost respect among your peers and clients, feelings of hopelessness, struggle, inadequacy, even feeling like you can't do school and you aren't smart because your teachers or professors aren't teaching you the way that you learn best. That is a lot of suffering. And the thought of millions of adults with ADHD all over the world suffering every single day with these kinds of challenges is really a painful thought to me, especially when I have answers and solutions that could potentially ease your pain. I made it even easier to get your questions over to me. Just head over to my website and you'll see Ask Dr. B in the main menu now. Just click there and ask away. I'll be notified immediately and get to work on them for you for the next Thursday's show. And in the event that your question is outside the scope of my license or practice or my knowledge base, I'll find a guest who can answer your question and have them do so on one of the special guest shows. Either way, you'll get answers to the best of my ability to provide them for you. If you're a new listener, welcome. I'm honored that you're here. If you're a subscriber or a regular listener, thanks so much for your loyalty and for trusting me to share meaningful content with you in each and every episode. And whether this is your first or your 28th time of listening to my show, you'll hear me say time and time again that you are not what you do or don't do, that you're more than that we are not defective or less than as people, as human beings, that we're just wired differently. And that difference is actually pretty cool. Once you have answers to your questions, once you know what you need to do and how to do it, and you have the best tools for you to get it done with the least amount of stress. It's my hope that you'll get some of what you need here. And remember, I am a work in progress just like you. Sometimes I'm the tortoise and sometimes I'm the hare. It depends a lot on a lot of different factors. Sometimes I even feel a little overwhelmed when strong emotions hit unexpectedly and I have to slow things down, take a breath, and regroup myself, letting myself know that everything's okay and it was just a big jolt of unexpected energy that's just passing through. It's not permanent. Perhaps you can relate to that feeling. Point being, I've learned a lot about myself over the years because I've been willing to be a student of my own life, to step into the situations that present themselves and learn how to navigate what I find there. This has meant learning how to quiet my challenges, and let me tell you, there's been plenty of them, and to make the most of my gifts, which are more and more every day than I ever knew was possible for me. Once I got the information that I needed, and I trust that you will too once you get what you need. I absolutely love my world map with all the little flags that are marking all the countries and the states where you all are listening. It is so cool. I love when I get to put a new flag on the map because I see that there's a new download and a new listener in a new country or a new state. I want to acknowledge and welcome new listeners in Malaysia, India, Brazil, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Romania, Hong Kong, Kenya, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, Norway, Philippines, Belgium, Hungary, Japan, Sweden, Croatia, Germany, Netherlands, Australia, Ireland, South Africa, the United Kingdom, Canada, and just about every state in the USA. It is very, very exciting to know that we are not alone at all. You know, I'm not much of a world traveler. However, it is exciting to know that my voice is traveling to all of you, no matter where you are on this planet, that no matter where you're located, you're listening and relating to the challenges and the stories and the solutions. Thank you all for listening. And I trust that you're going to benefit from at least one episode of this podcast show, hopefully more, but at least one. And knowing that you're there listening and reading your reviews and your emails, it makes me want to give even more of myself to meet your needs via this podcast show, the live videos that I do, the innovative programs I've created, and a Facebook community page, and in many other ways. You are a blessing to me, and your presence in my life is absolutely beyond anything that I had ever imagined. Newsflash! I created a special group for us to be able to relate on Facebook as a community. The group is called the Harness Your ADHD Power Community. After seeing that you all are listening from so many different parts of the world, I thought it would be wonderful for us to be able to come together from our many diverse spaces and freely communicate and discuss focus and follow-through and self-management and other relevant topics. I even created a quick little poll to let me know what episodes you've all been listening to and which ones you've enjoyed the most. Plus just a few house rules for the highest good of the group space. To be mindful of your posts and your comments, don't spam, including self-promotion, to celebrate the heck out of your wins, and get involved. Let's support each other on this journey of becoming and living as our best self, of moving from stuck to unstoppable. I would love to get to know you all. I really would. Please friend me on Facebook and then come and join the community. Again, it's the Harness Your ADHD Power Community on Facebook. Before I get to today's questions and answers, I have a question for you. And you've heard it before if you're a regular listener. It's about your state of mind and your wins. I can't emphasize this enough. I can't. And I'm going to continue to ask you about your wins and encourage you to acknowledge and celebrate them every day. I have this quote by E.E. Cummings that fits what I was thinking about today. It takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. Who else can you grow up and be? Seriously, an imitation of your true self? That is a really sad thought. To me, Cummings is talking about our right to grow and mature into the responsible adults that we need to become, and that we get to participate in defining what that's going to be. To me, that doesn't mean being all dried up and formal. Rather, it means maintaining my childlike wonder and my energy for my entire lifetime and embracing what I've committed to be responsible for and taking care of those things. You may not have all the information or skills yet to fully embrace this idea. However, it's a matter of needing to learn some things, which you can do. One of the reasons I encourage you to really look for your wins and then acknowledge and celebrate all of them is because they're going to lift your spirits, create a can-do mindset, and they're going to lead you to your greater successes. Plus, tracking them will show you the path of your growth, which is a really wonderful feeling. So back to wins. I talk a lot about wins. Why? Because cultivating and having a wins mindset can transform how you experience your life. And how you experience your life and the meanings that you give to your life events contributes to the quality of your life. So have you been taking the time to look for your wins, really, really look for them, acknowledge them, celebrate them, share them with others who appreciate what a big deal they are for you and they celebrate with you? And are you doing this every day? You know, I sure hope so, because there's truly magic in all of this. And what do I mean by wins? Well, these are the little things that happen every single day. They're good things, positive things in the bigger picture of your life. And yet they go unnoticed, unacknowledged, and uncelebrated by you. It takes shifting your mindset, and it is totally worth it. Please do not be the person that continues to tell yourself that it's pointless to reward yourself for what you're supposed to do. That couldn't be further from the truth. It couldn't. Those are the very things that deserve to be celebrated, so they become easier for you to do them consistently and more enjoyably each and every time you do. So what's it going to be for you today? If you joined our community group on Facebook, it's a win. If you reached out to me with your questions, that's a win. Perhaps you cleaned out your closets and you donated some clothing to a local agency to distribute to those in need of clothing. That's a win. Maybe you decided to give yourself a small gift every week, like flowers or something, just because you want to. That's a win. Perhaps you're starting to feel proud of the human being that you are and not criticizing the human doing as much. That is definitely a win. You get the point. Celebrate all of them. And none of this half-hearted celebrating. Mean it. Exaggerate your emotions. Yes, wow, awesome. And certainly celebrate the big wins too. It's just that they happen so much less often, and celebrating daily wins makes a difference faster in your life because of the frequency. Shifting gears now. Today's episode is all about answering the questions that you have about issues or challenges that you experience as an adult living with ADHD and offering you hope, real hope. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it. Thank you, my listeners, for today's questions on these 3 topics: cultivating resilience, impact of menopause, and communication potholes.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast show notes, grade free content from Dr. B, plus programs and services. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. You know, there's a lot of reasons why you have the questions that you do. It's possible that you have lots of misinformation, or you're missing steps, or strategies, or a philosophy, or an understanding of yourself well enough so that you can slow down your thinking to think something through, rather than rush yourself and make lots of mistakes. You know, everyone's reasons are different, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here to answer what I can for you. I'm going to share each topic with you. I'm going to share a little bit about the topic. I'm going to offer my point of view about the topic, which includes an action step to take. Yep, there's an action step for every topic, because just hearing an answer isn't enough. You know that. You need to take action or nothing changes. So don't let yourself off the hook here. You do have the ability to respond to your needs, and I hope at least one of these topics is going to resonate with you and be of benefit. So let's keep going. Thank you to Valerie in California for the first topic of cultivating resilience. She asked, is this typically more difficult for people with ADHD? What issues might ADHD people have with resilience? And please, offer strategies specific to ADHD that might help. Thank you for your questions, Valerie. I decided that I could weave them all together and talk about resilience in the context of your questions, and also cover the cultivation of resilience with specific strategies for adults with ADHD. First, is it typically more difficult for people with ADHD? Resilience is the ability to bounce back from defeats and failures and keep going. It's the ability to weather difficult times without giving up. It's a learned skill, and it's learned with the love and support of those providing care and guidance as we grow up. We need the encouragement, and we need someone believing in us and showing us the way through so we can learn that there's something other than defeat and failure ahead of us. If the person with ADHD has experienced many defeats and failures throughout their lifetime because they didn't know that they had ADHD, or they never got the support and guidance and encouragement and strategies and tools that they needed to live their best life, then they would have accumulated a lot of self-defeating thinking with little or no reprieve from that. And without having learned what it is to be resilient and be able to bounce back, one doesn't have the mindset or the actual tangible skill sets to weather these kind of life experiences. However, they can still be learned later in life when they're not learned in your younger years, so no worries on that. Second, what issues might ADHD people have with resilience? The first reaction to a difficult situation or a failed relationship or a lost job is a sense of personal failure. I failed, or I am a failure. This is misplaced identification. If we identify with a failure to achieve a desired outcome as we are a failure, which is an identity statement, then we're doomed. There are many reasons why we might have failed to achieve a desired outcome. We may have been trying to achieve it in an environment or with a person that's not well suited for the success that we were seeking. If we attempt to have a healthy and successful relationship with someone who isn't equipped to have that with us, we're not going to be able to achieve that outcome. If we attempt to have a successful work life or career, working for a company that isn't supportive of us and our development as an employee, then we're not going to achieve that outcome. We need to make sure that we place ourselves with people and environments that are going to make it possible for us to achieve our desired outcomes. It's not a personal failing or a moral failing to not succeed under these kinds of conditions. It may also be that we're missing certain skills, such as executive function skills. And because they're missing, we can't achieve our desired outcome for success in the way that we've been trying to achieve it at least. But there's workarounds. Missing skills is not a crime, and it's not a moral failing. It's just missing skills. I'm coming to see that the idea of pre-skills that I've talked about from the beginning is linked directly to executive function skills. If our neurodevelopment doesn't fully come online and we're missing the pre-skills that would then allow us to be able to learn the new skills that we need or want to learn to do things that we don't yet do, we have to master the pre-skills first, some of which might be executive function skills. We need a fully functioning system to then go out and seek what we want to do in life. And if we're not fully functioning as a system, we can have successes, but they're going to be lopsided due to our lopsided growth pattern and missing skills and missing information. And for those who are bright and gifted adults, their giftedness may seem to close the gaps or bridge the gaps for a period of time in their lives. However, the gaps still exist, and actually the difference between what we see that they're capable of and what they're actually capable of in the moment is hugely different. The missing executive function skills make bridging the gaps impossible for them too, and often leads to a severe depression or even an existential depression due to the meaninglessness of life for them and their inability to achieve what they feel is inside of them. It's trapped. Third, specific strategies to cultivate resilience that might help those with ADHD. There are exercises and skills to be learned to build resilience later in life. This can be achieved. However, it takes longer and it's more work because we're not doing it in the context of when it's done naturally and it naturally comes online to be developed, as in childhood. However, we can develop it. That's the point. We're not stuck unless we decide that we're stuck, and we stay stuck. A simple place to start would be to decide what you want to learn and then become a sort of apprentice under someone who knows how to do what you want to learn to do. For them to be the right person for you to apprentice with, they need to be able to provide the scaffolding that you need in the experience to help guide you through, as well as support and encourage you in keep going, even when you fall down and need to get back up and keep going. That's all part of the experience of learning and life. ADHD and executive functioning is not the same. However, they're very closely related and kind of need to be talked about together. ADHD refers to the 3 core symptom clusters of being inattentive, hyperactive, and/or impulsive. That's it. The topic of executive function and skills is another big topic and will be covered in a separate episode. Think of this as like the chief executive officer of a large company and the person who's providing good leadership. However, so that I don't leave you hanging, the executive function skills include the following that could be missing: impulse control, the ability to think before you act; emotional regulation, the ability to monitor and control your emotional reactions; shifting, the ability to switch from one activity to another or adjust when plans change; initiating, the ability to start a task or an assignment; planning, the ability to think through the steps toward a goal; organizing, the ability to keep things in a logical order or location; working memory, the ability to keep one piece of information in mind while doing something else. For example, keeping your whole to-do list in mind while you're completing one task at a time; and self-monitoring, the ability to think about and analyze your own actions. From what I've studied over the years, I've learned that not everyone who struggles with executive functioning has ADHD, but everyone with ADHD struggles with executive functioning. In fact, I think it's the executive functioning that becomes an even bigger challenge as we get older, because when we're younger, our parents typically act as our surrogate CEOs. As a teen and certainly as an adult, we're the ones that need to do these things for ourselves, which means the responsibility falls on us to learn how to do these things. I hope my input has given all of you some things to consider about resilience, ADHD, and executive functioning, as well as a place to start, so that you can begin to take a look at your own life and see what the issues are for you and what you're going to need to do to attend to in order to cultivate the resilience, the executive skills that you might be missing. Transitioning to our next topic. Thank you to Tammy in California for the second topic of impact of menopause. She asked and shared, "Can you please tell me about the impact of menopause on ADHD? I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD as a child. Only when my children were diagnosed did I consider the possibility that I had it too. Initially, when I discovered that I had gone through menopause, I thought I was suffering from Alzheimer's because my brain was functioning differently. I couldn't do things that I'd been doing for years, like organizing my lesson plans in the new academic calendar. After maybe 3 to 5 years, I learned that I was experiencing ADHD symptoms and not Alzheimer's. Thank God, but not from my doctor. How can doctors who are not required to know how to diagnose ADHD distinguish it in women who go through menopause and give them proper support, unlike me, who by accident read an article?" Thanks for your questions and what you shared, Tammy. I decided that I could weave them all together and talk about menopause and ADHD in general, as well as address your specific questions. I will also remind you all that I'm not an MD and do not have the medical understanding or training that an MD has to explain what happens. I'm going to share with you what I've learned and know my experience to be, and that of many women that I've worked with over the years. I hope that it'll shed some light and be of benefit. I'll start with saying that I didn't know about the impact of menopause on women with ADHD until I went into perimenopause myself around age 52. What a shock it was for me. For the majority of my life, I had created criteria, structures, rituals, strategies, rules, and guidelines that had supported me or provided the scaffolding that I needed to successfully go to college and complete all of my degrees, as well as successfully start and grow my businesses. So prior to age 52, I didn't really feel that my ADHD was a challenge. However, when perimenopause set in, it was as if I had inherited an alien brain in place of the one that I previously had. None of the well thought out structures and such were working anymore. It was crazy. What I learned is that when women go through menopause, their estrogen levels begin to decline, and that cognitive function is affected by the decline in estrogen. And so ADHD symptoms appear more pronounced and more troublesome. My first thought was about hormone replacement therapy, but given my family's history, that wasn't an option for me. So my next consideration was medication, which was the first time I considered that option. I researched the various medications and decided on what I felt would be the best option for me. I sought out a prescriber, I discussed my decision, and I started with medication. I feel very fortunate in terms of absolutely no side effects and only benefits from the medication. The plan was to utilize the medication until I felt that I had a solid foundation of new skills and abilities and strategies on board and solidly in place, and then titrate off the medication. This is what I've been doing over the last few years, and I'm titrating off the medication at this point in time. Clearly, there are no skills in pills, and so there's been a lot of new learning and studying of myself needed in order to construct a new way of living that works well moving forward. I'm grateful to have taken all the time that I needed to do this for myself. It's been quite the gift of self-love. I also studied gut health and the types of nutritional support, like foods and herbs and such, that I now need during this part of my life. Something very interesting I learned that bears sharing here is the following. Both the brain and the gut share much of the same tissue. You've probably heard of the neurotransmitter serotonin, which is responsible for regulating things in the body like mood and appetite and sleep. The right amount of serotonin in the brain produces a relaxed and positive feeling. As it turns out, approximately 90% of the serotonin in the body is located in the gut. The remaining 10% is synthesized in the central nervous system. Hence, when your gut is a mess, like with leaky gut syndrome or other imbalances, it can have a huge impact on your mood and your cognitive functioning. And for that reason, my gut health has become a priority for my increased health and well-being. Gut bacteria significantly influences the communication between the brain and the gut. And when the gut is full of healthy bacteria, it has the potential to regulate mood and positive feelings. And when it doesn't, we're at risk for depression and less effective cognitive functioning, which to me is possibly what is also happening to women who enter perimenopause and menopause and get hit with such a radical shift in functioning. Plus, the medications and other nutrients to be absorbed effectively, your gut needs to be clean and functioning well. If it's all coated over with gunk from years of poor eating habits, it just can't do the job that it was designed to do for you very well. As to how can doctors give women with ADHD the support that they need and deserve if they aren't trained to identify ADHD in women? The short answer is they can't. And it isn't just the medical doctors. The lack of training across the board for professionals with regard to adult ADHD, and more specifically adult women with ADHD, is staggering. It seems like it's up to us women to become educated ourselves so that we can advocate and seek the best care available once we know what it is that we need to be looking for. Certainly not a perfect solution, and yet it's what we seem to face. The diagnostic criteria of ADHD are male-based, not based on females, so that just adds to the challenges here. However, there are professionals out there who are well-trained and can help us. It just takes some looking. I hope my input is giving you some ideas about the impact of menopause on women with ADHD and the many other things to consider when moving forward with your own health plan. Very important for you to attend to your gut health if you haven't already done so. And for those of you who aren't yet of menopause age, I highly recommend that you take preventative steps for your gut health starting today. You will be glad that you did. Transitioning to our next topic. Thank you to Danny in California for the third topic of communication potholes. He asked, what are some of the more serious or unhealthy communication problems that ADHD adults tend to exhibit. Thanks for sharing your question with me, Danny. This is a huge challenge that many adults face. I'll cover some of the challenges and solutions today, and perhaps dedicate an entire episode to communication in the future. Some of the challenges: beginning a conversation in your head and only externalizing it to others halfway through, even though you think that you've been saying it aloud the entire time. I know about this one because I used to do it a lot. Leaving out important details or adding in way too many details, blurting out without thinking first, interrupting others or cutting them off in mid-sentence, or finishing their sentences or their thoughts for them before they do. Difficulty saying what you mean, like information gets trapped inside. Not being able to get your words out when you feel put on the spot, like your brain shuts down like a trap. Rushing to get your thoughts out because you don't know how to encapsulate it all into a succinct bottom line, and you're worried that other people aren't going to hold the space for you long enough for you to get your full thoughts out. Needing to communicate by a specific method in order to get to your point that may be way too long or filled with way too many details that others don't deem as relevant, even though it's the process you need to express yourself. Insisting that others understand you before you try to understand them. Being judgmental or blaming in your communication. Unable to separate out fluff from the important details. Reading into what people are saying and taking the wrong message or the wrong idea from the conversation. Not asking clarifying questions, or doing so by interrupting, rather than waiting until the person is finished and said what they wanted to say. Not thinking about what you want to say or convey to someone before you start talking, so that you can track whether or not you are effective in your communication. Not learning how others listen or hear, and then speaking in their language, rather than you just dump out information that the listener won't be able to stay present for. Giving way too much information at once without pacing it for your listener. That's a lot of stuff. So here's some solutions. Many of the challenges that I've shared with you are due to both ADHD and executive function skill deficits, which I talked about in response to an earlier question in this episode. To even begin to get to some of the solutions, I suggest that you first identify what the source of the challenges are, meaning which are ADHD, which are executive function, and which are both. Then comes the training. There's options, such as training on apps for improvements with symptoms of ADHD and symptoms of executive function deficits. One that I like a lot is Peak Pro, which I think I talked about in a previous episode. It trains for areas such as language and problem solving, memory, focus, mental agility, emotion, and coordination. They also have advanced trainings for handling emotions, memory, attention, creative thinking, empathy, and working memory. It's a nice combination of training for both ADHD and executive function. Another option is CBT, or cognitive behavioral training, which has been researched and used successfully for adults with ADHD and executive function challenges. And another option is DBT, or dialectical behavior training, which has been also researched and used successfully for adults with ADHD and executive function challenges. DBT focuses on 4 areas: mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. I hope that my input is giving you some new ideas on the unhealthy communication problems that adults with ADHD face, and perhaps help you to identify your own challenges more clearly, as well as offering you some beginning solutions for transforming those communication challenges. That's it for our 3 questions today. I want to thank Valerie, Tammy, and Danny for their questions for the Ask Dr. B format. Anticipating that you, like many other adults with ADHD all over the world, want a better life, are ready to do what it's going to take to create that life, and that as comprehensive as my podcast episodes are, you still need or want more. It's one of the reasons that I've created many different resources for you. Here's what's available so far. This podcast show, Harness Your ADHD Power, which currently releases 2 episodes per week, on Mondays and Thursdays. The Harness Your ADHD Power community on Facebook. With listeners in many parts of the world, I created that space so that we could all come together to exchange ideas, talk about challenges, and get answers as well. Please friend me on Facebook and then come and join our community with other like-minded adults that are making this journey. Live videos on my Facebook page, Adventures in Achievement, because many of you enjoy watching videos as well as listening to podcasts. So 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I go live and I answer questions in an Ask Dr. B format. Adventures in Achievement. You know, after 30 years of working one-to-one with adults with ADHD and hearing from many who wanted to work with me that they couldn't afford to do so for any meaningful period of time, I worked out a solution. Because the program includes lots of one-to-one work, I limit enrollment to ensure the success of all current students. New enrollment opens in August, so get on the wait list if you want to receive additional information. Remember, your needs matter to me. If I'm going to help make a significant difference in your lives, I need to know what your challenges are, what you're struggling with. I really do want to know what the number one biggest struggle or frustration is that you're having right now. So I created a quick little survey for you. It's only 6 questions and it's brief. The link to the survey is in the show notes, as well as on the post for today's podcast episode. I hope that you'll stop by my site and choose to take just a couple of minutes to respond to the survey. Thanks in advance for your participation. A favorite quote. Buddha said, "If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete." The question I have for you at this point of our journey together is, do you have compassion for others' challenges and struggles? And if so, do you extend that same compassion to yourself for your challenges and struggles? Or do you let the voices in your head attack you because you know the backstory behind yours and you deem them excuses not worthy of your compassion? If so, it's time to silence those voices right now. Remember that your value is as a human being, not as a human doing, and your value is equal to every other precious being in this universe. So keep practicing your compassion for all beings. It's so worth it. Whether you're learning from my podcast episodes or the live videos or working with me directly in my innovative online program or one-to-one, you're in my world and I'm here to serve your needs. And no matter how you choose to have me serve your needs, it's an honor to accompany you on your journey and make a difference in the quality of your life. So be sure to reach out and get your needs met. It's up to you to take action here so that things can change for you. There are 3 action steps that you can take to get some of your needs met. Ask Dr. B and get your questions answered directly on a podcast episode. Answer the quick little 6-question survey so that I know what your number one struggle or frustration is right now, and I can respond to it. Get on the wait list to receive additional information about my innovative program, Adventures in Achievement, that's opening up for limited enrollment in August. You'll find the links for all 3 action steps on my website. Do it for yourself today. I appreciate you showing up to listen today and in the future. For now, the new episodes are released on Mondays and Thursdays. As a subscriber, the newest episode will be in your feed by 1 a.m. Pacific time. Plus, you won't miss out on anything special that I create. Certainly a good reason to subscribe. Perhaps make a date with yourself to listen to each podcast episode so you hear your questions answered if you asked any of me for the Ask Dr. B format, or just enjoy all the episodes where I'll be talking about such compelling topics as releasing shame and guilt, seeing the path, making a plan, and setting yourself up for successfully beginning tasks. Remember, I love answering questions, so ask away for the Thursday episodes. I'm here for you, and I'm going to continue to tailor both the Ask Dr. B and the regular episodes to meet your needs. To do an even better job of that, I'd love to know what you need to know or what you just enjoy hearing my point of view on. You can also post your suggestions for topics in the community group that I created on Facebook. And if you're not a member yet of that group, just friend me on Facebook and then I'll add you to the community. I'd love to have you join us from wherever you are in the world. I do love hearing from you, reading your reviews, and learning how the podcast show is benefiting you and those you care about. It means a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time we get together. So that's about it for today. If you want to participate in the survey, ask me a question, get on the wait list, receive periodic updates on new happenings with Dr. B, or just download your show notes, you can do all of that from my website, as well as learn about other resources and services. That is, if that's of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're hungry to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with one-to-one attention and community support, or on your own with self-study, or could benefit from coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information right there at drbarbaracohen.com.